We are rolling.
Good morning. Welcome back to the conversation. This is Midlife Crisis Activities. This is our lifestyles and pop culture webcast. Our daily shout out to the world. I'm your host, Patrick Russell. And over there is my very vivacious producer, Veronica. Together we're here to lend our voices to the noise from a multi-generational perspective to help explain everything's right and wrong in this world. Happy Hump Wednesday, Veronica. We have just a little bit longer to go to get to that weekend, girl.
Oh, yeah.
Here we have an interesting story out of Nigeria. The emir of a small northern town in Nigeria, a 90-year-old mayor, let's call him, decided to marry his 20-year-old bride. Now, before we jump into the ridiculous and nonsensical age difference of 70 years, we have actually other issues that this story really brings up. The first and foremost is that there's still sectors in this world where it's still desperate enough where you need to sell off your daughters. This was an arranged marriage. There was a dowry paid to the family of 1 million local naira, which is the local currency, which in today's values end up being about $2,400 roughly.
Wow,
now, I'm sure that goes a long way in a small northeastern town of Nigeria. Now, the other thing that it brings up too is that this emir, he's not just partial to one young pretty lady, he's a serial polygamist. He's already been married to 3 other wives that he's recently divorced, right? His first set. Now, this young vixen, she's only representing one of 4 brides that the emir is willing or is intending to take on at the tender age of 90. And so, from a younger generation's perspective, Veronica, I got a couple questions for you. First and foremost, you were actually part of the Mormon Church, the Church of Latter-day Saints. And so I got a question from you on the polygamous side. How do you feel about the future of polygamy and whether or not it could exist moving forward in a future Me Too world? Your thoughts?
Well, when I started attending church, that was always my first question. Can we do that? Is this possible?
What was the answer?
Well, the answer was that it happened long time ago. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it happened anyway. So I never felt proud of, like, being part of a community that, actually
You were
did it.
ashamed.
I mean, in a way, because, who's not supposed to be ashamed of that? And like I said, you can still attend to church, but it doesn't mean that at least in my vocabulary, it doesn't mean that you have to understand and believe in everything, and that's me.
So that is where you and I differ, because for me to walk into a church and really be a part of that house of worship, I got to believe in everything that church is spouting.
It's not possible.
And
that's
here
why,
I am.
And
and here we are.
But like I said, I don't think any church it will give you whatever I need to know or whatever I feel that is truth.
Don't
right?
feel like you need to single-handedly defend the whole Church of the Mormon religion. Move on, my dear.
I'm not defending it.
Do you feel like polygamy has a place in this world moving forward? How about that?
I hope not. I mean, I'm pretty liberal, and I like to see things in the future, but I think that's beyond what I will accept. I wouldn't want you to be with 3-4 women, right?
Even if I could, quote-unquote, afford it. Now, assuming that the emir has a really nice pad, he's got a stable of wildlife that, keeps the eggs and the milk in the kitchen. Imagine a beautiful, wonderful life that only 1 in a million in the entire country couldn't experience. Would you not want to share that benefit with other women?
Will you like the idea of me having 5 husbands?
Heck no.
Oh, and then this is where my problem begins. It's like we, in a way, have to think about accepting men having like 5 wives, but and then when I bring the idea of like you accepting me having 5 husbands and then you being one of them,
it doesn't work out.
Yeah, why not?
I don't know.
Mean, how
funny that way.
Right? I mean, yeah, let's move on. But I do feel that I wouldn't be. I mean, I know I wouldn't be okay with having 5 wives. I mean, that's crazy. Now, the story that we are explaining to you guys, it's stupid. I mean, what sense does this 90-year-old has that will marry a 20-year-old? And then also, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Now, I am blessed to live in the States because that's what we don't see. We don't see a lot of those transactions happening behind our backs, right? Because I mean, it's happening probably every day in other countries.
Well, and that's the story here, is that polygamy has and will always exist on the fringe corners of our civilization. Why? The desperate needs, the lack of resources, the lack of protection for individual civil rights when you get to the outskirts of our civilization. And where will those new outskirts be? Used to be in the flatlands or the highlands or the plains of Utah. Was the last vestitude of outdoorsman sector of society, I should say, the fringes sector of society, where items like polygamy can still exist. And you know where the next frontier is going to be, where we will see polygamy again? Space, my dear. Imagine galactic harems. That's what's harems. Galactic harems.
Wait,
I messed up on my own
but
joke.
you say that you wanted to move to Utah. So does that has to do something with the polygamy stuff? Or
No,
not really?
sweetheart. The property values in Utah
I
are
see.
so much better for an investor.
I see, because you mentioned a couple of times. I'm like, I wonder if that's the property value or maybe something else.
And so, just to highlight a few arguments against polygamy, right, from a more empirical standpoint, the problem is resources with the eventual kids that are produced. Imagine a man who marries 4 wives end up producing, let's say, 20 kids. He can't afford to nourish them, nurture them, educate them, protect them. What ends up happening? They turn to the streets. They turn to elements of survival like crime.
Yeah.
And then they end up becoming thugs and criminals. I know that's a nightmare scenario where everything goes wrong. But have you been in the foster care system of the United States? It's not something that produces the most model of citizens. So even if you don't find yourself under a bridge, the system itself chews you up and can put out products of society that end up turning to crime in their own way.
My final point here will be that this type of stories makes me, I mean they make me sick, because we still live in this world that we have to see those things. We have to understand that people are paying to marry someone 70 years younger, not 15, 70. So how sick that is. I mean, that's being pervert. I mean,
That's right. There's a line that cannot be crossed.
15 years.
Is not a line that's been crossed. Thank you so much. Guys, don't just subscribe to this channel, but lend your voice to the noise. Please. There's no right.
There's no right or wrong answer. There's only your opinion.
There's only your opinion. Guys, no matter what comes your way today, no matter what obstacles or challenges you may face, like kind of messing up the ending of this show, you just need to remember one thing.
Give 'em hell.
hell. Happy Hump Wednesday, everybody.